Today, I'm making a video about something that doesn't really matter, but it matters to me. Hello. Anyway, that topic today is special editions. Now, mind you, I'm not talking about beautiful copies like Easton Press here, great leather bounds, or even my beloved The Broken Binding Company, or like special editions like this where the cover's different. It's got like neat, interesting, different like sprayed edges, that kind of thing, different like end papers, that sort of thing. What I'm talking about is the fake stuff. But what do I mean by fake? Well, take for example Fourth Wing. That book has had multiple different editions that could be considered special, or at least different from the regular copy. How these editions are different is very predatory. What they bring differently is simply just a different color of sprayed edge or a different kind of sprayed edge. Now, sprayed edges are, like I talked about on the Devil's copy, those kind of edges of the paper where they might put a unique design or a unique color or something like that. What this book does is that it will release the book in a normal edition, normal white paper, whatever, same hardback cover, everything like that. And then as time goes on, maybe a week, maybe even 2 weeks later, they'll release a black sprayed edge copy, a sprayed edge copy with dragons on it, a sprayed edge copy with dragons, and there's some discoloration, like maybe a wave or maybe some fire or something like that. And they keep doing this because it's cheap and it does actually get people who already bought the book to buy it again. Now, how do I know this? This is from personal experience, so take it with a grain of salt. But I do work at a used bookstore. And what tends to happen is that someone will come in with a complete set of the Fourth Wing trilogy at this point. I don't know how much they're supposed to be. But they bring in all three. And usually it's the original edition. What happens is that they buy the original edition, they like the series, they read it enough, and then something compels them to buy the special edition, with the sprayed edges, the black sprayed edges, the dragons on it, what have you. And then where these original copies end up is usually used bookstores, or they keep it for their collection, or maybe they just donate it to a library or something like that. Where this is predatory is that the amount of money this person is spending on the same book for just a slight difference is crazy. And the truth of the matter is that it works. This is something that is becoming increasingly common amongst books. Sprayed edges has become a bit of a trend in the industry amongst publishers. Many times, new authors or new books, just new releases in general, will come with sprayed edge editions or even only be sprayed edges, just to entice buyers. Don't get me wrong, I get the appeal. It's cool. Sprayed edges are admittedly very cool. They're nice. They make the pages look neat. The problem is that it's becoming so common and it's being made for like pretty much any book out there that it's not really special anymore. It's becoming a sort of trend, a commercialized trend in the industry made to just entice buyers as opposed to giving fans of a particular series something interesting, something new, something cool, like a collectible. But at least there is something slightly different visually in the design here. At least there's something that is just looks different. There is something far worse in terms of a special edition than the different sprayed edges. While I do believe that those are predatory, especially in the case of Fourth Wing, there's a worse villain out there. And that villain is Sarah J. Maas, and authors who do exactly the same thing as her. Now, I'm not talking about special editions of her books or the collector's editions that exist. What I'm talking about is the Target, Walmart, Barnes & Noble, whatever editions of her books, namely, I believe, in the Crescent City series. Now, mind you, I'm not a fan of this series. I haven't read it. I read the original Throne of Glass series, and I liked it for the most part. But one thing that this series does is that it has these specific store editions in which they have one extra chapter that is different between all of them. This exists to entice buyers to buy more copies to get more of the story, and is basically gating some of the story behind the edition in which you buy at a store. Now, granted, I'm sure most of these chapters are just like extra little tidbits between characters interacting, or given at Sarah J. Maas, two characters fucking. But it's still a predatory practice because it works. Major Sarah J. Maas fans will go out and actually buy 3 separate hardback copies of these books in order to have all of the chapters. Sure, you can likely go read these chapters online in PDFs, which I mean, I guess would be pirating, but I would say that for these specific chapters, that's pretty justified. But like, isn't that crazy? Especially considering it's a trilogy now. Like, imagine if Wheel of Time did that for all 15 books. That's 45 different copies of books that you'd own. Now, like I said, this isn't a dig at specialty publishers like Broken Binding, Subterranean Press, Folio. I have Folios like up there. Love Folios. Easton Press or anything like that. This is against like the mass market publishers that basically push a certain idea of a special edition with their work. Even the Devils, which my copy right there, which was beautiful, kind of did a similar thing where there is the normal hardback version and then there's the kind of more special version, which basically just has a slightly different designed cover. I mean, at least that's outwardly visual instead of just the sprayed edges, but still a little bit, predatory to release that after the original copy. So it's like, oh, you already bought and liked the book. Here's a special version that you can buy again. I suppose that is to say that how I feel about this is that it just makes a lot of the industry feel a lot more commercialized, greedy, trend chasing, when for the most part, books for a while have been a little bit more niche, especially in the fantasy genre. And we didn't see so much of this blatant commercialization even, 7 years ago. Special copies before used to, be entirely different editions. I mean, of course, there still are with, specialty publishers and stuff like that. Or even, Dragon Steel, which is fantastic editions. To effectively Labubu eyes or Pokemon trading card like a copy of a book just by, oh, guys, the you know pages are black. Oh, but these ones are black with dragons on it. Oh, there's like a rose on it now or something like that. Just kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth, especially when they don't put any work into making the cover all that different. A part of my point is just that a lot of this does adhere to book talk culture and the consumerism culture that exists in there. And I mean, I buy a lot of books. I buy a lot of books that I haven't read yet and will likely not read for a long time because my list is incredibly long. But I do plan on reading that. I don't buy multiple copies of the same book that I either have not read yet or read once and was partial okay with just for an aesthetic. Book talk tends to celebrate this kind of practice instead of, lambasting it for the predatory nature that exists in it. And in fact, with their money, with their wallet, they encourage this behavior. I guess the point of my rant is to say that if you have suspicions that a book will come out with sprayed edges editions, then wait and then buy it then instead of falling into their pyramid scheme of buying the original copy, then having to buy a new one, and then they release the copy with dragons on it, and then you want to buy that one, so then you buy another copy, and now you have spent upwards of $120 on the same book. Anyway, that's all for today. Tune in next time when I talk about something else that doesn't matter. Bye.